Hey guys, so I just finished making a different video, but since I'm in video mode and got my myself wound up to do camera recording, I wanted to take a minute to answer a question that a subscriber asked, and it's a really good question. And as the channel's been growing and I've been getting more subscribers, I've gotten some good questions, and I want to start taking the time to respond to some of those in video format. I could type a reply, but when the question's really good, it warrants making a separate video for it and explaining some of our reasoning and trying to get that question answered. So, Geiger Farm asked me, relating to my corn shelling video that I put up earlier this summer, how come you don't just feed the corn to beef and direct market beef? And I thought that is an excellent question, and it pertains to some things we've been thinking about. And it was very timely and appropriate. So I wanted to answer that. So obviously I'm not the only person on this farm. We make decisions as a family. My dad's been in the videos that you've seen, but there's also other members of my family who haven't appeared on camera very often. My wife is a critical player in deciding on what we're gonna do because it affects her and my life together. And my mom, who is on the farm here and present, you don't see her, but she's always in the background doing things. She always makes sure that Dad and I are fed so that we can keep working. My sister, she and her husband own what used to be a corner of the farm, and they help with hay and they help with everything on the farm that we ever ask them to, basically, whenever we need an extra hand. And so we all make these decisions collaboratively. And I have given a lot of thought to raising beef cattle here and direct marketing the beef. I have several friends who actually do this, who have their own farming operations and are based around grass-fed or direct-marketed beef, or a combination of the two. And here's the biggest reason we don't do it. I'll cut to the chase, and I'll tell you right now, it's lack of infrastructure. We do not have the fences, we do not have the facilities, we don't have trailers or a trailer. We don't have any kind of corral systems to be able to work with cattle. I want to get us to that point. I would really love to be able to do that sometime within the next 5 years, I would hope. And of course, plans like that always need to be flexible, right? Because it never works out the way you think it will. And lest I forget, actually, to mention it, the livestock would be a great thing for the soil health principles that we're trying to implement on the farm too. To be able to fence in the fields and take certain fields out of crop production and into grazing rotation, and then to be able to route the cattle through a grazing pattern through our perennial pasture land and onto the fields, to be able to clean up crop residue using cattle. I mean, all of that would be really, really beneficial from a regenerative and soil health perspective. So in that regard, having livestock would be a great thing as well. Our biggest issue on our farm is getting some fences up. We used to have fences here. This was a functioning dairy farm until 1993. I was 10 years old when we sold the cattle, and that was Mom and Dad's primary mode of life and income, was dairy farming up until that point. And I think once we got rid of the cattle, in Dad's and Mom's mind, there was no going back to cattle ever again of any kind. They had just had enough. And it's pretty understandable because dairy farming is a hard life. And so we had horses for some years after that, just recreational quarter horses for riding. And all our fencing on the farm slowly just kind of went into disrepair. The horses didn't need the same quality of fencing as the cattle did. And we grazed them on the same pasture land and gradually even less pasture land than what we had for the cattle. So I'm sitting in the pasture right now. I decided to shoot this video in some pasture area on our farm to show you that we actually have area for cattle. We just need good fencing and good infrastructure and a plan. The other factor that plays into that is that I don't live on the farm. And so to do chores with livestock would entail me coming out here every day. And as my career has kind of waffled back and forth from doing more construction work to now with COVID being at home more with my daughter and doing schoolwork with her, and we haven't quite decided where my wife's career is going for sure. She would perhaps like to make a change. And so if I can't be out here every day doing chores, I don't want to make a commitment to livestock until we're here. Our ultimate goal is to live on the farm. We would either come out here and do maybe a multi-generational living thing with my parents. We haven't quite decided exactly how we're going to organize that yet. We also have the kind of odd juxtaposition that we really like our house in town. It's an old house. I'm a history guy and a remodeling carpenter, so I've been fixing that up over the years, and that's been great for me. And I really enjoy that too. So we like living in town. We like coming to the farm. We want to live on the farm. We've just got to start making some decisions about some of these things. But I will not have livestock on the farm here until I can be present and be able to keep an eye on them and do the chores that need to be done. My parents are 73. I'm not going to ask them to do daily chores because of an enterprise that I want to undertake. That's not fair to them, and it's not right. So livestock on this farm is a thing that we're going to do, and beef cattle and direct marketing beef would be fantastic, and I would love to do it. But we got to get to that point, and we're just not quite ready for it yet. Part of it is cash flow, too. The farm enterprise has been something that Dad always did kind of part-time, because he was in construction with me, too, until he retired. And being able to make a good enough profit margin on the stuff that we're already doing is going to give us the cash flow to do the infrastructure to invest in the livestock. That is the way that I want to do it. That's the way I want to bootstrap it. And so it's going to take us a couple of years in that regard too. You know, I'm very hopeful that we've been growing more hay. We've had good hay markets. We've been making money at that. If I can keep direct marketing wildlife feed, that's a good income source for us that allows us to make much more on our corn crop, whatever amount of it that I can market in that fashion. That allows us to make much better money at that as well. And then some of that is going to get rolled back into and reinvested in the farm. And that's the kind of thing that it should go into, would be fencing, infrastructure, and then the cattle themselves. So it all takes money, it all takes time. We're just working to get to that point. So Geiger Farms, I hope that answers your question, and I hope it answers the question for anybody else who is wondering the same thing. Livestock would be great. I hope it's a really important thing that we'll be doing in the future. There we go.